Hello and welcome to another edition of the World Cup Fantasy podcast here on the FPL Scope channel. We've had quite an eventful quarterfinals with some pretty shocking results, which has led to, pretty much a fantasy disaster, as you can see on your screen. This is my current team before doing the 5 transfers I have allocated, and I basically have 3 players playing, or 4 players playing, because Acuna is out suspended, so it's only Fernandes, Messi and Mbappe I have left. I put all my eggs in one basket in Brazil with 5 players from them, I think, 4 players at least. And Portugal went out, and obviously England went out as well, and Netherlands had to go out. So not many players left. So Mbappe is still the one laughing because he's still in the World Cup. He didn't really score that much this match day, but they went through anyway, and he was really happy about that. And I think Kevin was pretty happy about that. So what was your takeaway from the quarterfinals, Kevin?
I think I'm Mbappe when it comes to Cristiano Ronaldo being out. I'm not going to say Portugal because, to be fair, I like a lot of the Portuguese players. Obviously, I have a lot of Portuguese friends, so I'm not going to revel in the fact that they shockingly went out to Morocco. I think that's the takeaway for me. They went back against colonizers FC, so well done for beating out a bunch of colonizers. So, but yeah, generally speaking, I think it's just been a great World Cup in the sense of the fact that we've had Morocco go through. Obviously, for me, it was crazy that Croatia went through
Yeah.
against Brazil against the run of play, and even in that match that they left it so late for Brazil to score and then for themselves to get the equalizer as well, which was just fantastic. I think it's just a actual whole love letter to this World Cup itself. It's been very romanticized with a lot of the results and a lot of the key moments and key highlights, which is hilarious because everyone going in hated the fact that it was in December, hated the fact that it's in Qatar and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be one for the ages, regardless of what happens now.
Yeah, I think on the pitch it's been amazing. We had some great moments, had some great goals. Still a bit lacking in terms of like super nice goals, I think, but it's been really good in that regard as well. At least some goals. And it seems, from all accounts, everyone that has traveled to Qatar seemed to have had a pretty good time. Well, apart from some journalists, sadly, the news about the American journalist Grant Wall was his name,
Hmm?
who passed away during the Argentina and Netherlands match. Really sad news. Hopefully, there's no shady business there. Can't really speculate on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like a really great guy and a great uh, like uh, sports journalist, and just like he really was meant a lot for soccer, as they call it in the US, and stuff. So it's really sad to see. But
Hmm.
anyways, there's not much left to say about that really. We just have to move on. So yeah, let's move on to the semifinals of Fantasy World Cup. Before we do that, we're gonna recap our teams in the quarterfinals. This is my team. Ended up with 39 points, which, by all accounts, considering I had a lot of players from teams that went out, it's a pretty decent score. I did use my power captain, which was sorta not useful because I would have captained Messi anyway, so I would have gotten those 18 points regardless. But still, Messi and Mbappe are still in the World Cup, and I'm gonna keep just captaining Messi and then Mbappe, Messi and then Mbappe, Mbappe and Messi, like pretty much. Well, unless they meet in the final, I'll obviously have a different captain in the bronze final match, assuming they meet in the final. But anyways, as far as my team goes, I had Costa in goal, who really messed up on the goal Morocco scored. He came out and in this series jumped way higher than him, to be honest, and just headed it in. Really nice goal from Nesiri, who's been struggling along with Sevilla this season, but he's a really top striker if he just gets the chance and if he's in form. Really good goal. But yeah, the Portugal conceding meant that also Rafael Guerreiro conceded. He got 0 points because he got subbed off at the half. Cancelo came on the left. Dalot kept his place on the right, and Guerreiro was the one who had to be subbed off. I was annoyed that I didn't bring him bring him in for the round of 16, where he got 11 points, and then I bring him in and he gets 0 points, which is kind of typical. But yeah, Acuna, on the other hand, was pretty lucky because he was subbed off before Argentina conceded, so he ended up with 7 points, even though he got a yellow card, which got him suspended, which is kind of annoying for me, already struggling to have enough players. Teo Hernandez had his worst game of the World Cup so far. Couldn't really contain Saka at all at the left back. He got a yellow card with a stupid penalty, giving away a penalty, which is also a minus. So really poor from Hernandez, -1. He ended up doing worse than Marquinhos with 0 points. That was the sub I did before the France game. Just kind of sad. Lucas Paqueta got an assist at least, so I got at least some of the points from Brazil. I'll get to later the other player I should have had from Brazil. Another player I brought in was Casemiro, which looking back is kind of a silly transfer. I sold Klaassen to get him. Klaassen didn't play, to be fair, but against Croatia, I guess I was just overrating Brazil after their previous match where they looked unstoppable, and Croatia probably underrated them, and they've shown to be a really tough side to beat. So Casemiro basically blanked. Enzo Fernandez really close to getting a goal right at the end of extra time. Hit the post. He's been fantastic, I think, still in the World Cup. So decent from him, even though he only got 2 points. That's the Argentinian Fernandez. And then you have Bruno Fernandes for Portugal. Couldn't really do much. He had one shot that was really close to going in as well. Easily could have scored that. He was really pissed off afterwards that he didn't score the goal. Easily could have been a goal. Great shooting position. He also almost had an assist for Bernardo Silva when he passed it in on a free kick. It was just a little bit off from Fernandes. Phil Foden didn't really do much for England. I feel like Saka was much better, and still Saka was subbed off and Foden kept playing, which is kind of interesting. But England went out, so Foden will be another guy to consider for Fantasy Premier League, even though he hurt us, or at least hurt me, right before the World Cup by being benched all the time. Messi, old reliable, always good. 9 points times 2 as my captain, 18 points. Yeah, not much else to say about Messi except the thing that we've been saying every week. Basically, he's the greatest of all time. There's no denying it. There's no chance. Ronaldo can't even win the World Cup now anymore. So any chance he had of like getting more fans or more people on his side, Ronaldo, it's pretty much out the window now that he's out of the World Cup. He's not going to play another World Cup game ever, and he ended up not scoring in a single knockout stage match in the World Cup either. Meanwhile, Messi scored a penalty, had a beautiful assist, which showed exactly why I prefer Messi over Ronaldo. The pass he had was just typical Messi, perfectly passed to Molina, who scored. Finally, Mbappe, currently the best player in the world, probably, by most accounts. He had his most like anonymous match so far in the World Cup. Didn't really do much against England. Kyle Walker did a pretty good job on him. He had some really nice moments. He didn't play a bad game, but he wasn't as good as he has been so far in the World Cup. Ended up at 1 point for me. And then on the bench, all the players that failed earlier in the earlier matches had the Dutch players that conceded. Noppert, he had the goal to say that Messi wasn't that good and it's easy to stop him, blah, 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 blah. And then Messi just humbled him and he did nothing in the penalty shootout. So good riddance to a guy who's been good to me in fantasy, but as of now, don't really have much else to say about him. Dumfries, however, -3. Kind of surprising that we were able to sub him off because he got a red card, but the red card was after the match. I guess that's why it was still possible to sub him off, but he still got registered with the red card and conceding a penalty. Conceding goals, just awful performance from Dumfries, but luckily I got to bench him. And then we come to my biggest mistake this match day, something that Kevin warned me about. So once I open it up to Kevin pretty soon, he'll be able to rag on me for that. But I went with Vinicius Jr. as sort of a differential in Brazil. I figured he's younger, he's not as injury prone as Neymar. He's going to be able to play more minutes and potentially score, especially assuming Brazil winning by a lot, which is what I was going for with that many Brazilian players. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be for Vinicius. He got subbed off pretty early. Neymar played the whole match and scored in extra time. So I lost out on 7 points from that. Kind of 6 points because I probably would have switched, or I wouldn't have switched captain from. Well, I had power captain, so yeah, whatever. 7 points. I missed from not having Neymar, who scored a great goal. Vinicius did nothing, really. And then finally, Marquinhos. He ended up with 0 points, but for me, it was kind of good, fantasy-wise at least, that Brazil conceded, because several other people had Alisson in goal. They had some people had Militao, some other people had Danilo. People were either doubled up or tripled up in Brazil defensively. So for me, it was actually good that they conceded. But yeah, Kevin, your time to roast me for picking the wrong Brazilian striker forward.
Yeah, well, I did warn you. I warned you several times, and obviously, uh, it's not even like a bias thing that I'm going with the Barcelona player over the Real Madrid player. It's just simply that with the record of, eclipsing Pele, the fact that it was such a big match, Neymar is that guy for Brazil and normally is the reason why Brazil go very far in these sort of things. So I think it was more the unbearable weight that he'd be able to carry compared to the young guys. Because spoiler alert, it was the young guys that kind of screwed up in the penalty shootout. Not to take away from Likovic or anything like that, but it's just more when you have these sort of players, the Messis, the Mbappes, and stuff like that, that's who you expect to perform. Obviously, Mbappe didn't, and spoiler alert, we've seen him ghost in big matches before. So, you still want to have those odds, right? I think fair enough that you went with a differential route, and like looking back at Vinicius highlights, he was much better than Neymar going in. Neymar to it says a lot that Neymar was rusty and still had like a sensational match.
Mm.
And even it might not even be considered sensational, but like to other people, he had 4 shots on target. He scored, and the goal that he scored was world class. Like it just shows that class is forever. And
Yep.
I think if I had the choice between the two, which I did, I would have gone with Neymar, and
Yeah.
it served me well.
Yeah, we'll get to see that pretty soon. Just one more note. I think it was just a South Korea performance really that sold me on Vinicius. He just looked really lethal in that match. He should have had more points than what he got, and he outscored Neymar in that round, I think. But yeah, Neymar, he's on penalties as well. So yeah, he was the sensible pick, but I just wanted to go differential just to go with someone more interesting, I guess, since I had the power captain chip already, and I was going to captain a Brazilian player. Everyone weren't doing that because some people were doing Messi and Mbappe still, so they wouldn't get the Brazilian attacker. Some people stuck with Richarlison. Some people had Neymar. I felt like Vinicius was kind of a differential, but I guess in the end Neymar was also sort of a differential, which we'll see with Kevin's team. He was actually your captain, but yeah, I'll let you go through your team. Yeah, this is what you had, I think. There's
Yeah.
no issues. Even
No.
Alba not playing.
Yeah, and Sabiri didn't even get subbed on.
Yep.
So yeah, so to start things off at Costa and goal, absolutely terrible. I hope it doesn't shake his confidence too much because he seems like a pretty decent goalkeeper otherwise, but he's always now going to be referred to as the guy who let it slip. And quite, yeah, I mean, sadly, for Portuguese fans, yeah, but for Morocco and the rest of the world, we enjoy that quite a bit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. So he did terribly. 1 point didn't really do that much in terms of saves. He did that one save, which is more the Moroccan player's fault that tried to do the lowest chip of all time rather than
Yeah.
just picking a post. You got to chip high to any player, I'm going to say this to any single player who wants to chip the goalie, do what Messi and the greats do. Chip high. You never get the goal if you're going to chip like lower than someone's legs. Like I don't did he expect the goalkeeper to like fall down and do this thing
Yeah.
like
I
they do in
mean,
FIFA? Like it doesn't happen. You
it's
just need to.
especially from that position. Like you saw the previous game for Portugal, Gonzalo Ramos did like a
Yeah,
small chip over the goalkeeper, but that's like coming from an angle and the goalkeeper rushing out. Sure, you can
yeah,
do like a small chip, but when it's like head to head at the edge of the box, you gotta chip it high, like you said.
yeah. Yeah, because he's obviously going to make his body as wide as possible. And therefore, when Gonzalo Ramos did it, it's because he already knows that the keeper's about to slide to try and make his body big. So
Mm.
it's terrible. He should have just picked the post and he would have scored, and that would have been 2-0. And Costa would have actually ended on 0 points. But luckily, Costa didn't. And yeah, he finished on one. Marquinhos, I sort of blame him. I sort of don't for the goal. I think both him and Allison could have maybe done better. Yes, it took a deflection, and that's why Allison couldn't get to it. But if you look at his positioning and stuff like that, he gets his toes ready and all that. He looks like he's actually going to be diving right as well. But then what does the FIFA animation of just like falling like this to the side, and then didn't save the goal, and then obviously lost on pens. So yeah, well done. So you got 0 points. Alba didn't play. Obviously, I told Matthias privately that there was some issues with my transfers because I did a bunch of transfers quickly simply because I needed to shift players around to get Neymar. And what ended up happening was players like Foden, who I had, became Di Maria. But even though I knew Di Maria wasn't starting, so I don't really know what happened there. I definitely didn't click confirm transfers or anything like that. And yet, maybe I might have had it on two different tabs, and that's why it might have screwed up or something. But
Mhm.
I know for sure that I never confirmed anything, and it completely screwed up my transfers. However, I brought Pasalic in for 3 points, and considering how it went for most midfielders, I'm quite happy with that. But annoyingly, that did mean I missed out on Paqueta's five, who I was always planning on bringing in. But considering now that he's not playing, I guess. I don't know. Um, and yeah, to go through the rest of the team, Alba did not play, obviously. Sabiri didn't play, which I found was a bit strange considering what he did in the previous game. Looked pretty good. So yeah, I would have expected him to get at least some minutes, but I guess for Morocco it was more the fact that they just needed to shut out shop and just relax essentially. So probably why they went with a bunch of defenders. McAllister didn't really do much in that game. I was actually quite disappointed with him. I thought
Mm.
Enzo Fernandez was so much better and should have scored. He got very unlucky to hit the post. And if it, and I, as I wrote to some friends, if Enzo Fernandez was Dutch, that really weird looping ball would have gone into goal. Of course, he'd get unlucky, and then of course he'd miss a pen later. But that's more due to the shenanigans of the Dutch players. Fernandez, yeah, 2 points. Didn't really live up to the hype, I think, of the group stage Fernandez as well a little bit. I think he was always good for Portugal. It's just that you would have expected him to do something here, and he didn't. He came very close to scoring. He probably could have gone assist here or there, but yeah, I know Morocco should be really proud of what they did and stuff like that, but it is a bit of a miracle. Like Portugal really, really did themselves no favors in the sense of going out and then being real bitches about it as well afterwards, complaining about the Argentinian refs. We had Cristiano Ronaldo's sister complaining about the team, even though this is probably one of the best assembled Portuguese teams that Ronaldo and co have been a part of, and all this type of stuff. Like I can't believe that the Dutch players ended up being a bit more gracious in defeat than some of these Portuguese players were. Because what does Messi or Argentina have to do with anything in regards to the officiating that happened in that game? Where was there a real like comparatively the Spain game basic or not Spain game, the Spanish ref Mateus Laos compared to this Argentinian ref. Laos got everything wrong pretty much, and this Argentine ref didn't really do anything in favor of Morocco or in favor of Portugal. He did actually a really decent job. So yeah, just it just infuriates me that like if they had a point, fair enough, but they didn't, and then were real scumbags about it, which makes you know it makes me and a lot of people feel justified in our dislike for the team. So stop it. Just there's so much. good things about this team. I expect them to do a splash at the Euros coming up. So I think people should be afraid of Portugal and England for that matter.
Mm.
Who commiserations for losing because obviously I have Mbappe in front who did absolutely nothing in that game. He had one good run against Kyle Walker, and that's pretty much it. I think Kyle Walker did a really good job on him. I also think, and I said this to the people I was watching the match with, if when Mbappe stops doing fancy flicks and stuff like stupid, sort of like shoulder drops and stuff like that, he'll actually get past Walker if he just uses his pace. And then there was that one run where he stopped doing all that stupid stuff and just went for it and then absolutely rinsed him. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a shame to see because I think he's one of the best talents in the world and obviously one of the best players in the world, if not the best. But yeah, a bit boring, but I'm really, 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 really happy for uh, Griezmann that Griezmann was able to step up, and he always does the
Mm-hmm.
France shirt, and he's all of a sudden Maradona. I don't get it. Like he just thinks he's better than Zidane. Like he's just 2016 player of the tournament, 2018 to me player of the tournament, 2021, it didn't go too well, but I think that was France as a whole rather than specifically Griezmann, because I think Griezmann did actually not too bad in the fantasy Euros. I don't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure he did all right. And in this year, I think he's been their most understated player. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that in a sec. Messi 9 points. I mean, I expected nothing less. I just a part of me got into the whole non jinxing him, and a part of me just thought analytically, Neymar did a good job with 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to twist it. If Messi outdoes him, good. I still have him in my team, so it doesn't really matter. And yeah, he outdid him by a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because of the stupid yellow. So yeah, which again was a really heated game. Allison did nothing. Terrible. So glad that Liverpool scumbag is out of my team. Otamendi -1. Didn't have the best game. Did really stupid stuff throughout the game. I was convinced he was going to get sent off. Didn't. Very luckily. Di Maria, Scaloni's an idiot. I love Scaloni and hate him at the same time. I felt like that was the game you throw in Di Maria just for the penalties as well. I don't understand why Montiel, who did score and scored a decent pen, is like considered more essential in terms of why he always has to take out the fullbacks but never puts the right offensive player. Like, is Dybala going to win the World Cup without playing a single minute? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell is going on there? I don't know. And then Dumfries, who got a -3, and if I'm not mistaken, he got either sent off during the penalty shootout or he got sent off right after. But I'm pretty sure it was during because of what he was doing to Enzo Fernandez and Lautaro. So, or it
Yeah.
must have been Enzo Fernandez, and then he got sent off because I don't think I saw him anywhere close to the pitch when he was meant to. I would have expected him to be one of the pen takers past number 5. So, but yeah, -3, red card, good riddance. See ya. I feel so sorry for Frankie De Jong. I love him, and he was genuinely so gracious with his post-match interview stuff, and I didn't expect any less. I guess.
Yeah. That's fair
Any
enough.
any I guess comments on my team?
Yeah. No, just he ended up with 32 points, which was like a meh score. It was really difficult to get a high score regardless this match day. But yeah, obviously, if your transfers had gone through and stuff, Paqueta was an obvious transfer. Just Alba out for, I don't know who you could have put in. Maybe Acuna would have been good. Other than Acuna, there weren't really that many. Well, Molina, obviously, if you had the foresight to have bring him in since he scored. But apart from those guys, there weren't really that many good defensive players. Morocco kept a clean sheet, so Hakimi, I guess. But with Portugal, you'd expect Portugal to score in that match anyway,
Yes.
especially after what they did against Switzerland. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if the transfers had worked out properly, it probably would have beaten me in terms of score anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, decent match day, all things considered, even though it's like 50 points less than we both got last match day, but
Yeah. Of
it's
course.
just a much more low scoring match day, really. But yeah, Pasalic also kind of worked out, like you said, because you still have him for this upcoming match day. But yeah, other than that, not many complaints. You fixed your team to get Neymar in. That worked out. So kudos to you. But yeah.
Yeah, another point I'd like to actually make about Pastelic. I think it's crazily understated how offensive he plays. Like
Mm.
he sort of plays like a second striker. It's extremely weird because like at Atalanta he plays genuinely as a cam, but here because their strikers are like Kramaric is a down out and out striker, but Pasalic was often taking the runs that I expected Kramaric to take and positioned himself always behind or right by the final defender or center back. So Pasalic is someone to that Argentina should be a bit scared about because including there were so many attacks and including one when they were chasing the equalizer that if Perisic had gotten it a bit lower, Pasalic probably would have scored a header, which was encouraging for me as a fantasy owner of him to see. But wow, I'm a bit scared that he might turn up against Argentina if he keeps playing that offensively.
Yeah, definitely. Should keep an eye out for him as well. Any of you guys watching? We move on to the table. I'm a little bit closer than number one in our FPL Scope table. Like we said last podcast, Engelthal, I think that's the name of the number one player, came in before the round of 16 into the league, took over first place for me, and now I have some points to catch up. Still, you can still join the league if you want to get first place. If you're currently on more than 317 points, you want to just join and take the number one spot, sure, go ahead. Anyone who gets invested into our podcast is a plus for me, even if it brings me down in the table. But yeah, I still feel like I have a decent chance to get number one with 15 points to go. It just depends on captaincy and some players, really. I think like my team is struggling with not that many players left with the limited transfers that I have, but I think that's the case for most people. Most people have a lot of Brazilian players, they have a lot of Portuguese players. Some people might even have more England players than I have as well. So it's not too bad, actually, in terms of who I have in my team. Currently also 38 points behind my co-host, Kevin. I feel like that's a pretty secure lead. You got to do something special to get past me, I think, especially considering neither of us have any chips left. I'm kind of sad because I didn't use wildcard in Matchday 2 like most people did, but I still did it in Matchday 3, and I'm regretting that now because if I was able to do like a wildcard now, I would have been in such a great spot. But it's been a really unpredictable World Cup, so I was just assuming that the best teams would go through and it would be pretty easy to navigate, but that hasn't proven to be the case. So kind of annoyed that I don't have the wildcard left, but that's just the way it goes. But yeah, as far as you go, what are your aspirations? What do you think you can achieve still in the FPL Scope League?
I still think I can come top five. I think top three might be a super stretch at this point, just because, like you said, it had to have been a lot of differentials for me to catch up. It must have, and I think it was due to that the group stages that I screwed up there in the group stages and in match day 4, maybe. So for me, I think the biggest thing now is just to try and claw back, hope people are being inactive, and just go from there. My main goal has always been because one of our viewers is my cousin Dylan. So my cousin Dylan has basically done a double or nothing pizza bet. So we do a annual pizza bet for FPL, but now he wanted like a double or nothing thing for the World Cup, and I think I'm like 50 points ahead. So it should be wrapped up, but hey, crazier things have happened and things can of course change. So for me, if as long as I can win the pizza bet, because I'm going back to Sweden in 2 weeks from now, which I'm very much looking forward to, I can meet him. I can be like, buy me a pizza and things will be good. So that is the most important thing right now for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, we'll once the World Cup is finished and we have the final World Cup fantasy edition of the podcast, we'll go through more what we did wrong, what we did right in terms of World Cup fantasy.
Yeah.
Feels like a lot of people, just a little preview, just a little thought that I had. It feels like in general people have struggled in World Cup fantasy compared to Fantasy Premier League, and I think that's just purely because we have so much experience in Fantasy Premier League, so we knew all the rules, we knew everything that we needed to do. While in World Cup fantasy, it's kind of been just a bit too eager to just use the chips pretty quickly. I feel like there are reasons to keep the chips. I think pretty much every chip that I've used has been pretty much a failure. So yeah, because I used the 12th man on Neymar, didn't get any points in the first match. I used the wildcard in Matchday 3 when I could have saved it until now, or even used it in Matchday 2. And then power captain, I got Messi, who I would have captained anyway. So it's pretty much a waste. So that has cost me some points on top of just some other mistakes, just subbing out players that had more points than the players that came after them that I could have subbed off later. I was too eager to sub people off, so it's too early to do that. And just, yeah, a couple other small mistakes that makes me not number one currently, which I could have easily been if I did a couple, just paid more attention really, and done some pretty easy fixes, to be honest. But I'm still pretty happy so far with the 302 points. I think I'm pretty close to 10k in terms of overall as well, which is always a goal for me in any fantasy game. Just to get top 10k, it's a pretty good achievement. And like you said, there might be a lot of people ahead of me that are not paying attention, that I've given up already, that just saw like all the players get knocked out now and don't even bother making a team. So there's still room to make up, especially in the overall standings, for anyone really. But yeah, that's about it when it comes to the league table. We'll move on to what our plans are for the semifinals. This is my current squad. As you can see, I only have 10 players playing because Acuna is suspended, so I can't sub him in. I might still do another -3 because currently, with this current squad that I have, I've done 6 transfers. That is getting Lloris in for Costa. I've sold the players that I got knocked out, Marquinhos among them, to get Molina, Otamendi, and Varane in defense. And I also brought in Di Maria, and I also brought in Giroud. So that's 6 transfers, meaning a -3. I'm still contemplating whether I should do the -3 for Lloris or not, because obviously, if he doesn't get a clean sheet, he's going to get less than 3 points, so I'll lose out. But if he does get a clean sheet, he's going to earn points. So it's more fun to just have players rather than just taking the loss already. So yeah, I'm leaning towards just having him when it comes to the defense, because I still expect France to not concede. More so than I expect Rabiot to get anything if I pick him in midfield. Or if I go Perisic or Modric, regardless of who I pick, I feel like it's not likely that they'll get more than the 3 points it will cost to bring them in. So I'm just going to rock with 10 players, really. But yeah, as you can see also, I don't have any Croatian players or Moroccan players. So, because still in the semifinals, it's 2 pretty favorite matchups. Argentina are expected to beat Croatia, even though that's going to be a tight game. We know Croatia beat Argentina 3-0 last time they played each other in the World Cup. And then France against Morocco is even more lopsided, I feel like. That's why I have... currently I have 5 French players. So, and 5 Argentinian players, to be honest. And that's what makes up my team. And then I'm thinking for the bronze final/final, the final match day, I'm going to bring in whoever I expect to get the most points out of the rest of the players from Croatia or Morocco. I might even just pick, I don't know. I guess I'll have to go. Maybe I'll even switch out some defensive players from either France or Argentina and just hope that one of them score. We'll see. That will be the next podcast. But yeah, just quickly go through the team. Lloris in goal, Molina and Otamendi from Argentina in defense, alongside Hernandez and Varane in defense from France. Midfield, I only have Fernandes and Di Maria. I've purposely not gone for that many midfielders because I feel like there's not that many good midfielders to choose from. They play for Croatia mostly, who play Argentina. Don't expect them to score much. France don't really have any midfielders that make that much sense. It's Rabiot and Tchouaméni scored this time, but that's not going to happen that often. So I got more big at the back and big up top with Messi, Mbappe, and Giroud up front. Giroud, I'm also kind of considering just going with something different in Griezmann or even Dembele. Just fun players to watch, but Giroud has just been so consistent. He's a striker. He's been scoring a lot of goals, so I think it's between Giroud and Griezmann. I still might go with Griezmann, but I don't know. I feel like Giroud is the safest pick. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. I still haven't made any other transfers, so I still have 5 transfers left. But yeah, that's pretty much my team. Acuna suspended, so he's gonna be on the bench regardless. I'm just gonna save him. No reason to sub him out when I'm gonna get him back for the final match day. And then I have Noppert, Casemiro, and Foden just being there really, and Paqueta, who are all out of the World Cup. But those are the 4 players I'll most likely sub out for the next round of fixtures. But yeah, any comments you have, any issues you have with my team?
Not necessarily. I think just the difference for me, as we'll look into my team, is Varane over Kunde. I think Kunde just has more chance of an offensive point. So that's why that's who I would suggest over Varane. But Varane is obviously less likely to get subbed off in the sense of like um Varane is the sort of guy who plays 90 minutes and extra time if it goes to that. Whilst Kunde could be the guy who gets subbed off. Not because I don't think he can handle it. It's just more that because he's playing a fullback position, they might force another fullback in, do the Scaloni, basically.
Yeah,
But in terms of everything else, I think it looks perfectly fine. It's just a question of maybe, yeah, maybe if you do want to be ballsy, get Griezmann in instead of Giroud because Griezmann's been on fire lately,
yeah,
and it wouldn't surprise me because he hasn't scored yet, which is actually quite crazy for Griezmann, who used to be their top scorer and stuff at tournaments. So wouldn't surprise me if he comes up with the goal, but you got to go with Giroud and Mbappe simply because they are the top scorers out of the two. So,
yeah.
or out of the 3 or 4, if you can include Dembouz as a forward, which again is such a stupid
Mm.
decision with this game. I'm always say that the Fantasy World Cup got ruined by listing a bunch of wingers as or like strikers or forwards. Yes, they are fundamentally forwards, but that gives you even less choice in midfield. We
True.
have a bunch of like CDMs and stuff like that's why people like you lament yourself for the Casemiro pick, but like I don't see why that was the worst pick considering the fact that he had scored and does get into these sort of situations. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if we had Dembouz and options of Dembouz and all these other players, we'd have them. If Liao had been listed like a midfielder, I'd have him, but obviously doesn't even get to play. So,
Mm.
but yeah, that's a different story. But other than that, yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. Uh, can you have 6 Argentinian players?
I think the cap is 5. No, it is 6. I think for the semifinal, and then it's 8 for the final actually.
Okay.
So I could get another one from either team really.
Okay, okay. No, just to double check that you don't have to potentially swap out Acuna if it was only 5, because then
No.
obviously you can't. But okay, well then, yeah, then I guess no real queries. It's just a shame, I guess, that you didn't have a Croatian or Moroccan player because then obviously you would have been able to field the full 11. But yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it really matters considering the fact that some of the defenders, or maybe all defenders, might go minus if it ends up being more than a goal conceded. So it's really stupid. But yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty much just what I've put my money on, just having people that will get clean sheets and strikers that will score. Like you said,
yeah,
it's really unfortunate that people like Dembele have been listed as forwards, and they're clearly, in terms of at least FPL wise, it would be midfielders. I mean,
yeah,
you could make the case that Mbappe is sort of like Salah, so he could have been a midfielder as well if you do it the FPL way. But my thought process in all that has always been, because I remember when Aubameyang was switched from a forward to a midfielder in FPL, it also didn't make any sense because we all knew that if Lacazette was injured, Aubameyang would be straight into the striker position. Same with Mbappe, he can play striker from time to time. Dembele never plays striker, so that's the difference I feel like between
Yeah.
Mbappe and Dembele, and I feel like that's what they should have done really, because midfield options have just been really lacking. I mean, Saka is a midfielder and Dembele is a forward. It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a weird. It's been a weird like fantasy game in general. I feel like even though it's been fun just to have some extra things to do in terms of the World Cup. Even though if you haven't played fantasy, the World Cup has been perfectly fine on its own. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of my squad. There's obviously some Croatian and Moroccan players that will be good for the next match day, but we'll talk about that in the next podcast. We won't be too long with this one. Just move on to yours. You have a couple other players that are not from Argentina and France, so you can just go through your squad and your thought process behind your transfers as well.
Yeah. So obviously, I have two goalkeepers that got knocked out. So Martinez was for me, an obvious pick because if Martinez keeps a clean sheet and Otamendi keep a clean sheet, I'm laughing and having a good time. But it's also to give me that second chance that if I do want to get a Lloris or something, then I can and I can adjust accordingly. So instead of bringing in Kunde, I'll who is a transfer of mine, I would have brought in Lloris. So it's just to optimize chances. Otamendi, he's the one who got the freak assist once upon a time from Messi, the good old days. I still think that he doesn't seem like he's going to get benched anytime soon. It's going to be him and Romero and potentially maybe.
Maybe a
I
back
wonder
three.
if yeah. I wonder if Lisandro Martinez will get to play left back or something like that. I don't think so at current rate, but yeah, I think Otamendi is just him, Messi, Rodrigo De Paula, and Otamendi are like, and Emi Martinez are the ones who just won't miss a single game, sort of thing. So, yeah, I feel very confident with him. Hakimi, uh, he is their set piece taker. I believe he's their pen taker as well. Like if I remember correctly from AFCON, I think he took penalties as well. So he's just a fun differential. Obviously, I don't have the highest hopes for them against France, but if something's going to come from them, it could be Hakimi, Ziyech, or El Naseri. I'm just going to go with Hakimi just because I have so many defenders who are out, anyways, and it seems like a good pick. And even if he flops this week, I still could have him for next week or next match day because he'll either play the bronze or or the final. So might as well just bring him in. McAllister, I'm not in love with him after the last couple of games. Like I don't think he's really living up to what I know he can and does, but that's McAllister sort of at Brighton as well. He just randomly pops up when he does pop up. So I'm hoping he does so against Croatia. I think Di Maria, if fit, will start. And I think that's the main thing that he hasn't been fit for the last couple of matches. Hopefully he'll be fit. I mean, his transfer was a mistake anyways. So now I need to look elsewhere because I think he'll definitely come on and play. Modric could be swapped to maybe Perisic or maybe Rabiot. So just take that transfer with a pinch of salt. I just think Modric is just someone to have regardless because he hates Messi. He hates Argentina. He wants to prove himself as one of the best midfielders of all time and all this crap. So for me, I think it's just he's shown that he still got what it takes to play 90 minutes. So yeah, fair enough. And he is their pen taker as well. Argentina have shown that they're not the best defensively after a certain period of time. Like I feel like it's always after 60, 70th minute. That's when they concede. First 45, they're good to go. And then second half, they just shit themselves. It's just classic Argentina.
Yeah,
So,
it's when they stop playing offensively, they have to defend, and they're not that good at that. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
what happens.
So they should just be they should be acting like they're chasing after their 1-0 goal every time they score,
Yeah.
basically. Just keep going attacking and just have fun. I mean, that's what they did to Italy. That's what they did to so many teams just throughout the last couple of months, and why they had such a crazy streak going. But yeah, Modric just seems like an obvious pick to have. Perisic might be better and could have more fun, but I, it's between Modric and like a Rabiot. I don't. I Tchouameni seems like a risky play, considering the fact that it's not something that he does very often with his goal, and what a goal that was. Messi, Mbappe, obvious picks. I'm not going to be switching them out of my team unless injuries happen. So yeah, they're both going to stay in my team. Giroud seems like the obvious pick because he also saves money. I feel that some of the other picks that you can pick can be a bit expensive. I just don't believe in Kramaric. Unnecessary seems like too wild of a pick when Giroud already has the amount of goals that he has.
Mm-hmm.
It could be Griezmann because I'm a big Griezmann guy.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I think I'll stick it as is. Pasalic will obviously get a chance to play for the team. I think again, scary good was pretty unlucky not to get a goal against Brazil, and I think was one of their better players, just generally speaking. I'm sure he was disappointed that he got subbed off, but you know what? He's in the semifinals. Let's see what he can do. Marquinhos, obviously, not going to play, just there because I don't want to go continuously go minus. But if I do, he could be potentially someone that I take out for someone else. But I'm more likely to take out Notbert for Lloris or something for a -3 in hopes that he keeps a clean sheet. And if he keeps a clean sheet, then I'll have 3 clean sheets in my team, basically. But yeah, other than that, Sabiri, I thought would get more minutes, but he didn't. He didn't play at all against um,
Sure.
Portugal. Yeah, so we'll see. I think it's just good to have if he does somehow start or gets an appearance. He does take some set pieces and stuff as well on the other side of Hakimi. So yeah, uh, other than that, pretty happy with this, and I haven't even gone minus at this point. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just fun to be able to feel 11, even though probably everyone will get minus points in my defense.
Yeah, like you said, you're in a pretty good position because you've just used 5 transfers. You don't have to go minus to have full. Well, you even have 12 players with
Yeah,
Pasalic as well, who's obviously going to
yeah,
start because Argentina played the first match, or the Argentina-Croatia match is the first match, so Pasalic would be in for Hakimi or someone like that, and then you'd sub in the guy on the bench for one of the people that blanked in the first match because it's hard to see a scenario where Martinez, Otamendi, McAllister, Di Maria, Modric, Pasalic, and Messi all score. So you're gonna have to use that final spot anyway.
yeah,
So that's why it's good to have a bench. That's why it would have been good to have a wild card, so you could have more potential players to go into your team after the first match. But that's how it is. In terms of the rest of us, I feel like you have an advantage from just having 12 players. Really, it's gonna be hard for pretty much everyone else to field an 11. So you're already in the driver's seat there. Obviously, you have Otamendi from before. That's what I feel like with maybe Hakimi. I feel like Molina, I've brought him in personally. I feel like he's a really good pick, especially considering Montiel is suspended, so he's not going to come in this time. Molina's going to play the whole game, and as you could see last game, it's a really well taken goal as well. Like, we give props to the Messi assist, obviously. It's a beautiful assist, but it was really well taken from Molina as well to score that goal. So he's shown that he has something to offer going forward, and he's been much better than Montiel the whole World Cup anyway. So I believe it will start in the final or bronze final regardless, even though Montiel will be back from suspension by then. But yeah. Obviously, Condé, Varane, it's not much in between them. I've gone with Varane, you've gone with Condé. Like I said earlier, Condé is the right back, so he's more susceptible to be subbed off, which, to be fair, in fantasy, it's not the worst thing to be subbed off after 60 because you can bank a clean sheet and then they can concede late. There's been a lot of late goals, so maybe that might not even be the worst thing. But for me, I just feel like, yeah, Condé can obviously score. He scored a lot of goals for Sevilla. on set pieces and stuff. But I feel like in the World Cup, I feel like Varane has been closer so far. I haven't really checked the data or something like that. But either way, it's a 50-50 call. It doesn't really matter that much. It's going to be a goal from a defender is always kind of random anyway. So especially with two players like that can both score. They've shown that they can score. You're bringing in Modric. I think you kind of convinced me actually with what you said, that he likes to show up against Argentina. He was amazing when they beat them 3-0 in the last World Cup. He's on penalties, so it makes sense. I prefer Perisic. I've always preferred Perisic throughout this World Cup fantasy, but maybe in this current situation, Modric might be the better pick, especially considering Argentina showed a lack of composure defensively last game, and they can easily concede a penalty that Modric can score. So I guess it makes sense to have Modric there. And then it's the Giroud-Griezmann thing that I'm struggling with as well. Yeah, it makes sense. I've gone with Giroud. I think it makes sense, but Griezmann's also a really nice option if you want to go with something a bit different. But yeah, I assume I'm just going to ask you, and I assume, like me, you'll be doing the same. Because my thinking is going with Messi as captain in the first match and then Mbappe as captain in the second match. I assume that's the way you're going to go as well.
I was thinking actually of captaining Paslic or Sabiri, to be honest, but we'll see what happens. No, obviously, I feel like it's boring. I genuinely think it's boring that those are the only two options, which is sort of why I stuck with Neymar as well. That I took a ballsy move. Like it wasn't to me, it didn't feel too ballsy because I felt like Neymar was going to get something in that game. But you know, most people would have just captained Messi or Mbappe, and that's been the whole tournament basically. So yeah, it's going to be Messi or Mbappe that both of them will get the chance. Obviously, if Messi scores or even remotely replicates what he did against the Netherlands, like get a goal and assist, yeah, there's no way I'm going to twist it. Even though Mbappe could easily get a hat trick against Morocco, sort of thing. Like I don't like if Morocco somehow beat France. This is one of the most impressive teams to make the final ever in regards to who they've taken out, because that includes being in the same group as
Belgium and Croatia.
Belgium and Croatia, knocking out Spain, knocking out Portugal, and then knocking out France. Are you kidding me? Like that's a part of the reason why I even have Akimi, to just be a part of the journey, man. What a wild, wild World Cup they've had so far. No one gave, including us, really, gave them a chance. I don't even remember where we kept them in the tier list now, but I really hope we kept them higher than the other African teams, because oh my god, they've been doing swimmingly. And yeah, but we'll wait and see in regards to that. But yeah, it's Messi and Mbappe. There's no one else. Like unless you're feeling like, oh, this could be Giroud's night, then that's the only thing. But you'd be an asshole if you do that and Mbappe then goes Mbappe mode on everyone.
Yeah, that's also just a question I have every week. Well, how many points does Messi have to get as your first captain for you not to switch over to Mbappe?
8 or 9, I'd say. So like 16 or 18 as captain. Yeah, I think that's enough.
So if he gets 7 points times 2, 14, you'll swap to Mbappe?
Potentially.
So
Potentially.
7 is sort of like the tipping point.
Yeah, I think 6. I used to think 6 was just them scoring was enough, but like considering how this World Cup has gone, um, yes, 8 I think seems like the thing, because 8 means they basically scored, had got a point for keeping clean sheet, or not clean sheet, for playing 60 minutes, and got some shots on target. Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Neymar got like 4 shots on target. That's why I was really happy with him, and probably should have scored a brace, and that would have. But yeah, that's ifs and buts, so no need.
Yeah. That's also just another point I was going to bring up in terms of France against Morocco, their chances going forward, and also Hakimi's chances of keeping a clean sheet. Obviously, Saiz had to go off injured as well this past match day, and they already had to sacrifice Aguerd, who got injured the round before against Spain. So, and Masraoui is still out as well, so it's basically only Hakimi left from the original defensive line, assuming they're still out.
Yeah.
Still don't know exactly how long Size is out. Maybe he'll be back. I think Aguerd is definitely out. Even though they showed that they could keep a clean sheet even without Aguerd. So they've been a really tough team to beat, especially also with Bono in goal, should be mentioned. Has had an amazing World Cup. He's going to be one of the guys in contention for goalkeeper for the team of the tournament. Just on the topic of that, as we're closing or coming to the end of this edition of the podcast. Like I said earlier, after World Cup is finished, we'll have like a recap going through the fantasy game first and talking about what went wrong, what went right, all that stuff. Just looking back at who won the table and all that stuff. And then at the end of that podcast, we're going to do our team of the tournament and just pick out. I think we're going to have 3 nominees each for each position, and then we're going to decide on a team, on like a shared team between us. So yeah, you can look forward to that. So yeah, please follow us on at the FPL Scope on Twitter and all that stuff. Comment on YouTube if you have any questions or any feedback. Love to hear it. If there's anything you'd like us to change or try to look into when it comes to the podcast, especially if you've seen us a couple times now. I know the views have been sort of up and down. We've got a couple hundred views on these World Cup Fantasy podcasts, which is pretty good for a really new FPL podcast. So please stick with us. We have every intention to keep going throughout the season, both in terms of first finishing up World Cup Fantasy and then going to Fantasy Premier League, finishing up the season there. And in the summer, if you don't know already, we make a guide, FPL guide, before every FPL season. So that's going to come this summer as well. If you want to stick around for the long term. I get quite a lot of traffic on the website as well, thevideoscope.com. Usually when it comes to the FPL guide, it's pretty high up in the Google search, all that stuff. Search optimization thing is on point, so you get quite a few clicks on that. So hopefully that will help the YouTube channel grow. We have every intention of keeping it going. And if you don't know, usually it's me and Kevin, and then Kimo, who's still in Egypt, having the time of his life back in his home country. During I'm back in Oslo, where it's completely dark at the moment, apart from the lights just going straight into my face. Kimo's in Egypt, enjoying himself, having a good time. He'll be back around New Year's for our FPL coverage. Kevin will be with me all throughout the World Cup, and then once FPL gets back on. Just before I hand it over to Kevin to finish off the podcast, just also going to mention in terms of FPL content that will be coming out pretty soon. I'm going to have a recap of the first half of the season personally with my own team, my own decisions. My rank hasn't been the best, but I'm going to try to justify all my moves throughout the game weeks still. That's it for me. I'm going to leave it to you, Kevin, to send us off. Got anything else to say?
Yeah, I would like to just say that I want to see Messi in the World Cup finals. So sorry, Croatian fans. It would be fun for a repeat of 2018, but I kind of want to see Messi versus Mbappe. So let's see what happens. I mean, obviously, Messi versus Morocco would be cool too, just because I want Morocco to be the first African team to make it to the final. But let's wait and see. This has been a tremendous World Cup. It's been filled with a bunch of awesome moments, and I hope the moments continue. So, best of luck to all managers out there. Best of luck to all the fans if your team is still in contention for the World Cup. Let's see what happens. Much love and take care.
Take care. See ya.